that story. So why are we here tonight and why are we talking about this? Our semester this year is on social justice. We have a lot of people in the room here that went to the March for Life this weekend. And really, Stacy and Nicole's story is about life. And if you value life the way that we are taught, you will never get behind the wheel unless you're fully capable of driving responsibly. And I think that's what Stacy's story kind of teaches us about life. We all need a better respect for life in all of its forms, from conception to death. And so I thank you for sharing that. So we have John Glass is our first speaker from The Way, which is a drug and alcohol rehab center here in Huntsville. And we wanted to get another viewpoint on drugs and alcohol. And I'm going to let John tell you a little bit more, but if you would give a warm round of applause to John.
Like you said, my name's John, and this is really hard for me because that could have been me any number of times. I mean, I've woken up in the hospital twice, didn't know how I got there. Once I was taken there by ambulance, and I was found near my car. I don't know if I was heading to my car or away from it, but I don't know how I got there. Another time, I was so drunk that I had checked myself into the hospital and woke up. Didn't know how I got there again, and it turned out that I drove up there, checked myself. I had to walk around the parking garage looking for my car. But like I said, I mean, that could have been me that took her son's life any number of times. And I mean, I don't know if any of the kids here have ever experimented with drugs or alcohol, but I mean, I'm sure the ones that, if they have, are telling themselves, well, that wouldn't happen to me. I didn't grow up thinking that I was going to become a drug addict or an alcoholic. I mean, I grew up going to church, and 11, 12 years old, I stopped going, but started to experiment with pot. And told myself it was all right because I was still making decent grades in school. I mean, wasn't getting in any trouble. Well, I mean, my life kind of became a series of compromises after that. It's one thing after another. I mean, after that, about a year later, I tell myself, well, I'll try drinking, but I won't do anything else. And I mean, that goes on for a little while. I still don't think it's any kind of problem, and still doing all right in school. Just think I'm having a good time. About 15 years old, 16 years old, I decide I'm going to try cocaine and acid, and I just keep telling myself, well, it's okay, I'll try this, but I won't try this next thing. And then that gets introduced to me, so I try that. And say, well, I won't try this. Well, before you know it, I mean, by the time I've had my son, I'm sorry, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I had my son when I was 23 years old, and at that point I was just drinking alcohol and smoking pot. And at that point I started getting arrested, and in the last 4 years I've been arrested 8 times. And right now I have a 7-year prison sentence hanging over my head, and I haven't seen my son in the last 3 years because of my drug and alcohol use. I've wrecked parents' cars, I've wrecked my own cars, and I mean, it's just one thing after another that I keep telling myself, well, it's okay because nothing really came out of it, and I'd walk away from these wrecks and not get hurt. And I still don't know why. But the last time I was in a wreck, I'd been up for about 2 weeks from smoking meth, and went out all night drinking alcohol, and I very well could have killed somebody, but I veered off the road to the right instead of the left, and I hit a tree. I walked away from the wreck and was found in a field about 500 yards from the car where I'd walked. But didn't really, I don't know, I thought I was lucky. I mean, I don't know how, but I just walked away from it. And after that, I kind of thought I might have a problem, so I go to a rehab facility in town. It's called Bradford. And I had an assessment with them, and they told me that I didn't need help. Well, about 2 weeks after that, I was being arrested for manufacturing meth, and I spent 7 months in jail. But I don't know. I got out. While I was in jail, I told my sister that I needed to get into a program, and she found the way. And since then, I mean, I've come to where I can forgive myself for the things that I've done. I'm a different person now. But I'm going to pass it off to Daniel Bell. He's going to tell you a little bit about himself. But if I can leave you with anything, I mean, just stay away from the bad things in life. I mean, you never know. I mean, your first time experimenting with something can be your last. But thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you for sharing your story. I know that's not easy, but it's the reality of drinking and driving. I've seen it happen so many times. You know, friends of mine, and I've been, those pictures you saw, the people laying on top of the cars, that's been me and that's been John. It does happen. It's not just, her story is just not, it's not just a story, it's real. It's really what happens when you make those decisions and compromises. But like John, I grew up in the church too. I went to things like this. I had a wonderful family, a wonderful Christian family. I'm sure like most of y'all have. And I just didn't, I guess I didn't feel a part of it. Although I had the opportunity, y'all have the fellowship, y'all have, you know, people to talk to. And I encourage y'all to take advantage of that. And, you know, if y'all have problems or things y'all are struggling with, talk to the leaders here. You know, they don't care what you've done or what you've been through or what's happened. They'll work with you and they'll show you a better way. Instead of doing that, I coped with things like that by, you know, going to parties and drinking and drugging and wanting people to like me. You know, and because of that, I made a lot of compromises like John did. And those compromises just got worse and worse and bad decisions. And they led me to, started out with tobacco, really. I made the choice to fit in and be cool and start smoking cigarettes or dipping, chewing tobacco. And you know, after that, the cool kids, they would drink. So I decided it'd be cool to drink, and I liked it a lot. And you know, while this was going on, I had very good grades in school. I played a lot of sports, and I was very good at it. I had an opportunity to play in college. So I had a lot of things going for me, and that just, it shows me, and I hope it shows you, that drug and alcohol addiction can affect anybody. It doesn't matter how much money your family has, or you know, where you come from, or how good you are at any sport, or how good you are in school. Those decisions to take that first drink, or smoke that first joint, or take that first pill can lead you down the road I had to go down. And you know, that led to me losing my athletic career. I almost didn't get a high school diploma. Luckily, I was able to work through alternative school and get that. But you know, my drug and alcohol addiction led me down a dark, dark road. Many times getting arrested, doing jail time. You know, when I was 20 years old, while most of my friends were in college, doing what they were supposed to be doing, I got sentenced to 7 years in prison. And that's not a place for me, and that's not a place for any of y'all. It was rough. I did about 3.5 years because of, you know, crimes I committed. And you know, you think that would scare somebody. And I thought that worked for me, but I got out and started doing the same thing I did again. And you know, that led me to Bradford, like John. I went through the program at Bradford, and I actually went there first when I was about 16. And they told me the same thing they told you. They told me I didn't have a problem. So I stayed there 2 or 3 days and left. And so the second time around, they said, "You probably got a problem." So I did what they told me to do, and I worked the program of AA, but I never did it 100%. Like most of my life, I did it halfway. I did what was comfortable for me. I wasn't willing to get uncomfortable to try to work through my problems and be a better person. So, I did that, and it worked for a couple years, and I had a pretty good life. I still didn't have any kind of faith in my life, though, and I think that's really where I missed it that time. But, I had a good job. I met my wife, which I'm now divorced. But I had, things going for me, and I started making those compromises again, which led to me just drinking a little bit, taking a few pills, and then I was full on, taking a lot of methadone, which is a very strong painkiller, doing a lot of speed, taking more pills, and before I knew it, I was just walking around like a zombie. And after time, my wife left me. I lost my job. I lost everything. So I started, acting out and just getting more and more drunk and high, just to kind of black everything out. And then before I know it, I wake up in jail once again. And I'm a convicted felon, and they consider that a habitual offender, which is, you get at least 10 years, but you could get up to a life sentence. So I had to, sit in jail and think about that and sober up. And, my dad, he usually would come get me out of jail, but this time he said, we're not doing it for you. So he said, we're going to try to find somewhere for you to go, which is the way. And so after spending about 2 months in jail, they released me to the way. And, after being there, I had my court dates and everything. I ended up getting a 10-year sentence, 3 years probation, which the 10 years was suspended. So, like John, I have prison time hanging over my head too. But since being at the way, I was able to sit down and really get into God's Word and have, my own personal relationship with God, which is something that I never had growing up. I kind of always lived off my parents' faith, or I didn't really take it serious. I thought it was just stories in the Bible and just stuff to try to make you do right. But since I found my own relationship, my life has been incredible. The relationships that I've gotten back with family and friends, and just the life I have today is just something I never could imagine. And that's all because of God. I shouldn't be sitting here today. Either should any of us, really. But by the grace of God, I'm here and I'm alive and breathing, and I'm sober. And that's it's a miracle, really. But since giving my life to Christ, my life, I've been at peace. I have a peace that I've never had before. And I'm able to have a normal life, and I don't have to get high or drunk to feel normal. Going to church, being involved with my church, having good fellowship with people in the church and relationships has really helped me a lot. And I encourage y'all to do that too. I know probably where you go to school, it's not very cool to be a Christian, but it takes a real person to be a Christian today. And I challenge each and every one of y'all to do that. It's very rewarding, and you'll have a great, rewarding life because of it. I thank y'all for listening to me.
I just want to say thank you to you. I got 2 precious cargos I ride around with all the time. Aaliyah's 7 and Jude is about to turn 2. That brought a sharp pain in my heart because I couldn't imagine losing one of my babies. And for y'all that don't know that are parents, it's a pain that I can, Scripture says we're in Revelations 12:11, we're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it's what your husband might not see now, Romans 8:28 says he works all things out together for our good. So it brought tears and a pain in my heart, but I know it's working out for its good. And I just thank you. I just want to give you another. I have no idea. I know Natalie's over there tearing up because couldn't imagine losing one of our babies. So, I'm Manuel, and man, that was heartwarming and hearing John and Daniel talk. Anyway, I grew up a pretty normal kid. I grew up Catholic. I I did the whole confirmation and baptism and the whole 9 yards. Never really understood it. I always got in trouble for playing with the things you pray on. And, I splashed the water when I come in, and I was just a mess. I was just always a rebellious kid, and it was just I had no discipline in my life. I grew up without a father, and I was raised by a single mother with 3 kids. She worked hard. She played the hand she was dealt with. It was she decided to be a single mother because of the situation we were in, and I had an abusive stepfather. And it was a hard hand she was dealt, but she did the best she could. When I was about 13, I moved to Huntsville. I was just a kid. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to have the cool clothes. I played sports, and that was my outlet for things. I ran track at Challenger. When I got to Grissom, I played football. I wrestled. Daniel was actually one of the first persons I met at Grissom, and I really looked up to him. He was a couple years older than me, and I just really admired him. And he was doing all the good things. He's a little humble about his football career, but he was an all-star. And I looked up to him and admired things like that, and that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a football player, a wrestler, whatever, But like I said, there was no discipline in my life, and I quickly started getting involved in drugs and alcohol, and it started slow. Like Daniel started with tobacco, I started just smoking cigarettes, trying to fit in, be cool, and by the time I knew it, I was drinking. But it never got to become a problem until I started staying out at night. I wasn't doing good things in my school, and by the time I knew it, I wasn't eligible to play sports anymore. So that really took away my identity. I no longer was a wrestler. I no longer was a football player. I was just a guy. And man, it was hard for me because that's what I revolved my life around. And growing up with a single mom, we didn't have much money, so my mom was always like, work, 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 that's what you need to do. And that's why I kind of took my focus. And I had one job. I worked at McAllister's for maybe a week, and I said, no, this ain't for me. And I couldn't handle it, fast food. I don't know if anybody works fast food, but God bless your soul, because that's a tough job. And I couldn't handle it, but I realized the situation I was in. I could sell drugs to guys that were older and that were younger than me, and I could get away with it because I could have people over at my house late at night, and I could do things that most kids couldn't do. I could drive over your house at 11 o'clock at night because I didn't have anyone telling me what to do. And man, I did all right, but I'm gonna tell you, monkeys can't sell bananas. I was a terrible drug dealer because I did all my drugs and made no money. It was really just a terrible, terrible lifestyle I chose. But that continued on for a while, and but I, like Daniel, I ended up having to go to alternative schools. I was kicked out of school for fighting. I mean, I was a violent little man. I mean, I'm still little, but I was just violent, and that was my outlet of things. I used violence because I felt I was smaller than everybody, so I had to show you that I could hit you with something, and that's the way I was, and I was just a bad person. And I got it together about senior year, about going into my senior year. I said, I gotta do something with my life. And so I remember I was sitting over at a friend's house, and his dad was a prominent lawyer, and we were talking, and he asked me, he said, are you gonna go to school anywhere? And I said, man, my parents don't have money for school. And he said, well, I'll tell you what you do, man. You have a salesman mentality. You act like a salesman. I'm gonna invest in you. You go to real estate school. You get your real estate license, and I'll help you do whatever you need to do. I'll invest whatever amount of money you want. And man, this was like a dream come true. I loved flip my house. That's what I wanted to do, and man, I had a goal to it. And but I was 17 when I graduated high school, and you have to be 19 to be a licensed realtor. And so I waited a few years. I went to school and had it together for a while. I wasn't really drinking. I wasn't really using drugs. I wasn't addicted to anything, and I just had my mindset on success, and that's where my identity became success. I was going to be rich. I was going to be a mega millionaire, and that's where my mindset was. And I did really well. That first year, from 19 to 20, I made about $70,000, you know, when you're a 19-year-old kid, that's like $1 million, you know, you're just like, whew, you know, I mean, I'm going everywhere, you know, I'm spending whatever kind of money whenever I thought that wasn't going to run out, you know, but unfortunately it does run out, and I learned the hard way, and man, I had cars and, you know, houses, and, you know, at this time I met Natalie, I was about 20. I chased her for a year or so, and she had a beautiful daughter, Leah, and that's my little girl, and we kind of, you know, hit it off. I sometimes joke with her and say she was desperate, and I was the desperate one. But anyway, so we kind of hit it off, and she saw me go from this success to having cars and having money at my disposal to watching a drug addiction really take over my life. I went from Lortabs to Percocets, from Percocets to Oxycontin to heroin. By the time I knew it, I was a full-blown heroin junkie. I couldn't keep a needle out of my arm. And she, you know, if you ever ask her, she can tell you from an outlook of things, it literally, it was the devil, because the scripture says he comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and that's what he did with me. He killed my spirit. He destroyed my ambition, my financial situations, my life, and he almost killed me. And between these times, how many times I got in a car and drove with drugs in my system, alcohol. I think I acquired over 3 DUIs in the few years that I was, and I couldn't imagine hurting a family. I mean, I'm so thankful that the Lord kept me safe, because